I will share a couple of statistics that are going to speak for itself. As reported by a very large management company, I was recently told their internal statistics show that when a lead is marked prospecting and or self-generated from a seller, those leads, prospects, opportunities close at a 70% win rate. Think about it. If we are going outbound and have a strategy to go outbound, that prospect is usually only talking to us because we went after them. The ability to close that business is at such a higher chance because you sourced it versus the information that comes from third parties, let's call it a C-vent, win in single digits. So when hotels have a strategy for their team to actually spend time curating, developing, and flexing those outbound muscles, you will close that business at a higher rate, and there are stats to back it. Look in your own statistics. So when a team picks the right audience, you're actually fishing where the fish are. So if we look at it from a perspective of how do you want your team spending time? If we have no strategy and no approach, and we're taking a broad stroke approach to book anything, we tend to book nothing. So really honing in on what is a great customer for us? What does an ideal customer look like based on the historical information that we have? Who are these customers? Who are lookalike customers that I can find in AI? That helps narrow it down so you actually fish where the fish are. Furthermore, when we're looking at sending outreach and we take a broad stroke, you'll see this from a lot of lead gen agencies or agencies that are specifically focused on hospitality. We will use AI or we will help you with a broad stroke approach to get to everybody. Think about that messaging. If it's not curtailed to that specific audience, if it doesn't talk about something that actually matters to them, it comes across as that you're pitching, you're sending marketing messages that do not land, and that they are not important enough for you to actually personalize that piece of content, that outreach with something that is relevant to them. So it usually doesn't land. So when teams are able to look at that audience, really narrow it down, and get in the weeds on what is important to this planner, what is important to this organization, you're able to have a conversation that actually resonates. And you know this when you start tracking, are people responding, or are we just sending out e-blasts that nobody is opening, but we check the box because it's sales activity. Data does not lie. And when we use data to help drive our strategy, we get a better outcome. So all three combined, the right audience, a message that actually resonates and talks to the individual, and the data to help back up, is that strategy working? All have to go together. When you're having more quality conversations, and when you see quality and qualified pipeline creation. So a big indicator of is the strategy working is, are we actually seeing pipeline creation? And when I talk about pipeline, this goes on to sales leadership and above property sales leadership, being able to dig in to that opportunity to say, is this qualified? What are they trying to solve? What are they hoping to gain? What outcomes are they looking to deliver as a result of this? What are the meaty details that we've gathered through our sales conversations and what we call discovery, where we're discovering why this person is reaching out to us or why we reached out to them, what they're looking to accomplish, and if we can actually help them. Now, so often, a lot of pipeline creation happens, but the pipeline doesn't go anywhere. And it's a result of us responding solely to RFPs that we're never going to get any information from. A VP recently spoke to a team I was working in the trenches with and said, if I looked at my statistics and my data and I saw that I had a much higher percentage of win rate on opportunities that I sourced myself, that would be the only place that I would spend my time. I wouldn't be responding. I'd respond to RFPs, but I wouldn't place any emphasis on those because they have such a low close rate. I would focus on what I'm able to generate. When we look at the outcomes, how do we know that our strategy is working? More calls that actually lead to a conversion or a next step or a next agreement is one. Pipeline creation. I'm also going to venture to say referrals. If I'm talking to somebody that I sought out, but they may not be able to help me, or they don't have anything right now, or they've moved on, whatever the reason may be, but I ask them for a referral, that is a higher intent of me being able to get another conversation with someone that they actually walk me into. And then lastly, as a seller, are you hitting your numbers? Did you crush your numbers and now you're at your accelerator, you're making more commissions? That would be another outcome that's actually one that many sellers want to reach. So when we start looking at the data, we have to align it to what outcomes are we looking to drive, and is the strategy helping us get there? But if we don't have a strategy and we don't have outcomes, we don't know if they're working together. Another outcome that is often overlooked, but I would encourage you all to peel back the layers on your P&L, is that often RFPs come with a hefty third-party commission. Rebates, commission, you nail it. You're having to buy that business, which is costly and actually reduces the amount of profit that flows through to the bottom line. So an unintended consequence of you having an outbound strategy and your team actually getting excited about their opportunities that they're creating themselves is that you will see that commission line actually reduce on your P&L. So it's like a double whammy. The sellers win because they're able to create their own pipeline and get more commission, and the management company, the ownership, and those who are heavily invested in your profitability will see that line item start to decrease. I actually have a couple because I do think it's important to celebrate some small wins as well. It's where we start to see that momentum grow. So I'll share a couple of the small ones first, and then we'll get to a big win. One, an outbound effort when I saw an immediate lift was from a single seller who told me, I don't want to do this. I don't want to change the way I'm doing. I'm too inundated. And as we went through training and they actually applied and they started to do some outbound, I got pinged a message a couple days later and it said, I was actually able to gain a meeting with a planner that I didn't even know existed that sells into my space, all because I went digging on LinkedIn to find them. And I had the courage and I sent them a message. So I think those small wins obviously build that momentum, that internal motivation to keep going. And that is just one example. I've seen a couple of individuals book group business, catering business, and L&R from all that generated from a LinkedIn post because they decided to put themselves out there and create content that spoke to an ideal audience. And one of the big wins, this is attributed to Corey and Susan on the lore side, as we start to look at this concept of sales on tap and us bringing it all into one umbrella so we can offer multiple services, is a full service independent resort, we'll say in the upper East Coast, we don't want to give it away, part of the US, was able to generate, are you ready for it? $1.4 million in revenue that they would have never realized, all from creating an outbound strategy. So let that sink in. Most companies I look at from ownership would love for their team to drive that from outbound efforts. And I know everybody at a hotel, they would have a significantly different conversation if their team was generating outbound. So there's a gamut wins, one big one, but it all starts with that small win that then gains momentum. So sellers feel comfortable and confident going outbound, and fear of rejection is no longer the objection that holds them back.